Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I've chosen to read an article about Hurricane Idalia, which has recently affected the US state of Florida. So I'm going to read it and you can follow it as I read, or if you prefer, you can download the text file. The link is under the video. You can download it and you can read it at your leisure. I'll also be highlighting a few words in each paragraph that I found interesting. Okay, so let's kick off with the first paragraph. Hurricane Idalia, the second major hurricane of the 2023 Atlantic season, slammed into Florida's Big Bend region on Wednesday morning, bringing catastrophic storm surge, destructive winds, and torrential rain. The storm, which briefly reached Category 4 intensity over the Gulf of Mexico, weakened slightly to a Category 3 before making landfall at Keaton Beach with maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. So the first word I've highlighted here is the verb to slam, and it's a regular verb used in the past, slammed. And we can hear this verb used particularly when people are angry and perhaps they leave the house in a hurry and they slam the door behind them. So that means they close the door very quickly. Usually there's a loud sound associated with that. Equally, when it's windy, if the wind passes through the house, sometimes, if you're not careful, the door will slam closed. It'll be a big bang. In this case, it's used slightly figuratively. The hurricane is slamming into the coast. So it's hitting the coast very powerfully and causing a lot of damage. The second phrase I've highlighted here is storm surge. Two words together. The first word, relatively simple. A storm is just another name for the hurricane. Surge. This is slightly more difficult, and it's commonly associated with water. So when water surges, it moves in one direction, usually quite powerfully. It can actually also be used to describe the way in which a crowd moves. When there's a lot of people together, perhaps at a concert, music concert, or a sporting event, if that crowd moves in the same direction at the same time, we can say the crowd is surging forward. This can, of course, be very dangerous if there's panic in the crowd and everybody moves forward. If the crowd surges forward, then people can get injured and sometimes even killed. In this case, it's also very destructive. When the hurricane or the storm causes the water of the ocean to surge over the land, that means it causes very dramatic flooding. Usually this kind of surge is caused by both the powerful winds of the hurricane, but also the incredible low pressure of the system, which causes the tide to be very high. Okay, so let's move on to the second paragraph now. The storm caused widespread damage and power outages across northern Florida, as well as parts of Georgia and South Carolina, where hurricane warnings were issued. Governor Ron DeSantis urged residents in the evacuation zones to leave immediately, warning that first responders would not be able to reach them until after the storm passed. He also said that the storm surge, which could reach up to 16 feet in some areas, was life-threatening. Okay, so the first phrase we have highlighted here is power outage. Power outage. Now, the power in this case is, of course, electrical power. And an outage is basically when that electrical power is disconnected. So when there is no electricity, we can say there is a power outage. I have no electricity in my home. There are other phrases for this which you might hear, one of which is a blackout or power cut, but they're all talking about the same thing. Obviously, in this case, the power outage was caused by the force of the hurricane winds knocking down the cables, the power cables, and causing destruction of infrastructure. And this has caused the electricity supply to be disrupted. The second phrase is evacuation zone. Zone refers to an area of land. In this case, we suppose it's the areas of the city or areas of the state that were affected by the hurricane directly. An evacuation is when it usually happens when people are in danger and they have to be moved from that area, from that danger area, into another safer area or zone. So they are evacuated. And in this case, the governor of the state was he was telling the residents to move out of those dangerous areas, to evacuate to a safer place. So let's move on to the third paragraph now. NASA shared terrifying footage of Hurricane Idalia from the International Space Station, showing the massive storm swirling over the Gulf of Mexico. The storm formed from a low-pressure area that crossed Central America from the eastern Pacific Ocean and gradually intensified as it moved northwards through the Caribbean Sea and the Yucatan Channel. It underwent rapid intensification on August 29, reaching Category 4 status with winds of 150 miles per hour. So the first word we're looking at here is a regular verb, share, shared in the past. The best examples I can think of for this could be common things that people share. So, for example, when you're a student, because you don't have a lot of money, it's quite common to share an apartment or share a house. So that means that two or more people live together in the same place and they pay the total cost together. They share the rent. So it's actually cheaper for each individual. Equally, if I have a pizza, a big pizza, and I don't want to eat it all for myself, I would share it with my friends. I would give a piece or a portion to each of my friends. In this case, NASA decided to share the footage or the video of the hurricane with the public. So it distributed that video. Okay, so the second word we have here is swirling. Now, this is from the verb swirl, it's used in the present participle here, and usually describes the motion of air or of liquids. In this case, it's talking about the air, and it's turning around, it's swirling in this kind of circular pattern. We can see it here in the picture. We can see two storm systems swirling around and making this characteristic design. Something you also see if you ever look at pictures of galaxies, there are spiral galaxies that have the same kind of pattern. So that's to swirl. Okay, so moving on to the final paragraph here, the fourth one. Hurricane Idalia continued to move northeastward along the southeast coast of the U.S., weakening to a tropical storm as it crossed into North Carolina on Thursday. The storm left a trail of flooding and destruction throughout the southeast, with an estimated cost of $9 billion. It was the 9th named storm, 3rd hurricane, and 2nd major hurricane of the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season. So we have two words here. The first one is weakening. Now, this word has different forms. First of all, it can be used as an adjective. Weak is the opposite of strong. So if somebody is weak, it means they cannot lift very heavy objects. Sometimes if you're ill for a long time, you can feel very weak. And we form the verb from this by adding the en to the end of weak. So we get weaken, which literally means to become weak, to lose strength. In this case, the storm has weakened. It has lost strength as it's hit the land, which is commonly what happens because the hurricanes generally get their energy from the warm seas. And when they touch land, when they make landfall, they lose some of that energy. The second word we have is trail. Trail. Now, if you've ever been out walking, hiking, or trekking in the countryside, in the mountains, in the forest, you will probably know what a trail is because it's basically a path. It's a path that you follow in order to do a route. So in this case, the storm has made a trail. It's cut a path of destruction and of flooding. I'd just like to say thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, Please like the video and also subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.